Hello everyone, Daniel Curry here. That's working. Okay, yeah, it's been a pretty good summer. Today I'm going to talk about the Elektron model samples. Many of you know that I purchased this not long ago, a few months ago, lots of months ago, and that I promised all kinds of, here, hold on. Yeah, let's leave it. Promised all kinds of videos and tutorials and all these things, right? And it's because I had high hopes, okay? Before I get into that, yes, I did break my clavicle. So there won't be a 46th birthday skate video this year. I was skating and filming, actually, and I busted my clavicle super bad. I have a plate and 7 screws, which is actually very uncommon for a collarbone injury. Yep, I got some pretty nasty scarring from the surgery and so on. It's going to be probably early to mid-December before I'm skating. So that's that. On top of that, it's starting to get a little chilly, and my birthday is coming up. I turned 46 years old, and that's amazing. So, yeah, I hope everybody had a good summer and that your fall and winter is going to be as sweet as mine's going to be, okay? Now, this Elektron model samples, I have so many complaints against this unit that it is actually sitting here in front of me, and I'm going to play some music in a little bit and record it so that you can see what the machine is capable of. I do push it pretty hard. I don't do a lot of on-the-fly trigs, parameter locks and sample locks and things like that, which I probably could if my music was a little different. If you're using this as a drum machine, right, or a single bass unit, it's actually powerful machine. And for the price, I mean, you can mangle some drum beats with this thing in a way that is practically unheard of, right? Here's the interesting thing though, okay? Let's just get started right into why I'm not really a huge fan of the Elektron model samples and why I want to get rid of it, okay? The first thing is, let's start with the most nitpicky crap, stuff I don't really, that are not exactly a deal breaker for me, and that's that the transfer software, right? I don't really want to use transfer software to put samples into my unit. I wish I could sample in real time, but I can't. That's fine though, no big deal. The transfer software, when you're loading, it's just drag and drop. It's very simple. But when you're loading your samples into the software or onto the machine, it doesn't really tell you how much time you have left. And I don't know. If there's a way to get around that, somebody, let somebody know in the comments. That would be great. Again, not a deal breaker, right? The cutoff filter, the filter cutoff, it's a kind of a low pass to high pass combo. So when it's all the way to the left, it's a low pass filter. When it's all the way to the right, it's a high pass filter, right? I don't like that, okay? Because I want to be able to drop it back to 0, right, in an unfiltered position very quickly, and with this unit, you just can't, okay? Another thing is when you're using it in real time, it's not that steppy, right? It's a digital filter, but you can't really hear the steps. But if you record your motion sequence and record the movement of the filter, then it gets super blippy and it's stepping all over the place, which is ridiculous, even if you don't have the LFO set to the filter cutoff, right? If you don't have any depth there. Speaking of the LFO, it's not really that usable. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't work and that it doesn't, work decently well. The values, especially because the cutoff specifically of the filter is a low pass and high pass combo, the values are just so sensitive, okay? There's a sweet spot in the LFO. It's hard to find that sweet spot. The resonance of the filter is so high that when it's up, it just cracks the audio, right? You're likely to hear that at least somewhere in the performance that I do soon. Another thing, the LFO isn't, the timing's just not that great, to be honest. You can set it to where the timing should be perfect for certain things, and it just isn't that good, okay? As far as using samples as a basis for a synthesizer, right? I really love, and everybody knows that I love using single cycle waveforms or even building my own waveforms or building waveforms in a DAW and bringing them over. Right? When you're playing these samples chromatically with the Elektron model samples, you are playing with them, you get 2 octaves, right? The Octatrack has the same complaint, all right? I have the same complaint with the Octatrack. It might be 3 octaves on the Octatrack, but it doesn't matter. 3 is not enough. 2 is certainly not enough. I want to play the keyboard with my waveforms, and I can't, okay? Maybe that's not what they, well, it's obviously not what they had in mind. Well, too bad, because it's got 6 parts, and I would like at least 2 of them to be keyboard parts, right? Okay, the next thing, okay, here's where it starts to get really, really irritating. The mute and unmute positions of the pattern, okay? They carry over to the following pattern. So if I'm playing pattern T1-3 and I cut all the drums out, which let's just say they're on tracks 1, 2, and 3. I mute 1, 2, and 3, and then I initiate a program change, and then when the new program comes in, they don't unmute themselves. The mute positions carry on. They carry over. So I have to time it with the function key to try to unmute them at the last second. And sometimes when I do that, they'll unmute, but the pattern change won't initiate. Even though it's initiated, it won't carry out. I'll stay in the same pattern. You're likely to see that in the performance because it happens often. It's really, really irritating. Okay. Another thing is, if I mangle a pattern and I get it crazy, right? And then I go to the next pattern comes in, slap, like it's supposed to, right? But if I go back to a pattern that I've previously played, it doesn't play in its original saved state. It plays in the mangled state that I left it in before I initiated the pattern change. So that's really weird. If you've got big reverbs and delays, if I've messed with the pitch, if I've used the cutoff to cut some of the instruments out, which is a good workaround for using the, for muting things and having them come in on the next pattern, right? Then when you go back to that pattern, all that stuff is still there. It just goes back to its mangled state. There's no way to easily return to the pattern's original state. Now, there is the temporary save. You can hit function in the tool key and it will save a copy of your pattern. So you can do that in its original state, and then you can hit function in the pattern key to reload that pattern to its original state. But you can't do that if you've gone to a new pattern and you come back. You could try to time it right, but you just can't. It's just not practical. It doesn't work, okay? Those 2 things right there are deal breakers for me. Everything else, even the octaves, even having 2 octaves in a chromatic keyboard, I can get around that. I have to be minimal or sparse. Sometimes that really helps my music, but to be fair, it's just not usable for me in my performance, for my performance paradigm to keep the state of the mutes and to cross over to new patterns and to not have the patterns revert to their original state when you play them again, okay? Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and the worst thing, in my opinion, is that, okay, for the MIDI protocol, every parameter that's editable via MIDI can be editable in 128 increments, which is 0, which is an increment, to 127, okay? That's cutoff and resonance, it's pitch, it's pan, anything on every unit, okay? Every unit I've ever used, MIDI is 128 increments from 0 to 127. The beautiful thing about a value that is split into 128 increments is that with note values or placement values in 4/4 music, it's easy to find those exact points that you need to, let's just put it this way. You have 16 notes in a bar, right? 16 16th notes in one bar. So if you have 8 bars, that's 128 notes, okay? Which is obvious. That it's easy to split that up per pattern equally, okay? The sample start position on this Elektron model samples goes from a value of 0 to a value of 100. Talking about it right now is making me so furious, okay? Because my Korg ESX, I have built a template, and I'll leave the description, a link in the description so you can see the template in the tutorial, but I've built it so where you can use the motion sequence with each one of the triggers and 128 notes in the 8-bar pattern. You can set it up to where each one of those notes are set to a sequence, to a value of the sample start to make it. You can chop it into 128 sample start positions and make a properly trimmed sample play seamlessly at any tempo and any pitch just by dropping it in. You can drop the samples in real time and they'll play. It's like elastic audio. It's like a real-time time stretch, similar to what the Octatrack does, right? I wanted to be able to do that with this Elektron unit. Because it's not 0 to 127 and it's 1 to 100, I can't do that at all, okay? I can't set each one of the triggers to a different sample start position because the amount 100 doesn't go into 128, or 128 isn't divided by 100, right? It's very, very difficult. It's not a multiple of 16. So that right there makes this unit, that takes away 50% of the use that I planned on getting out of this unit when I bought it. Okay, another thing that does is most of my sample packs that I've put out over the years, which is gigabytes and gigabytes of sample packs, a lot of times I'll try to squeeze a bunch of samples into one wave file, and I'll use the sample start position and sample length to zero in on and isolate specific hits, right? So sometimes I'll put out a file that is 128 kick drums, right? If I do have a file that is 128 kick drums, right? Or sometimes it'll be 32 kick drums, 32 snares, 32 open hi-hats, 32 closed hi-hats, right? Or whatever. The thing is that because this sample start knob variable parameter is split into 100 increments instead of 128, I can't zero in specifically on the start of each one of those hits for most of the hits. A few of the hits I can do, right? But not most of them. So all of my old sample packs are obsolete. They're rendered useless, right? So anyway, I'm going to get rid of this Elektron model samples, okay? Has all the original packaging, all the original chords. It's going to be nice and clean, like it's never been used. There's a scuff here and there, but it's mostly just from sitting in my studio. Does it have all of those stickers, those sweet stickers? No, I did you the favor of giving those to my son as soon as I opened the box, because those things are garbage. And so yeah, go to ghostwrittenclips.com. This will be listed there. I'm going to sell it for $250. Whoever buys it's going to get this pack, and whoever buys it is also going to get maybe 3 or 4 gigabytes of samples that I'll throw in as well, and you'll be able to download those. Another thing is if you go to the link in the description and you sign up for my email list, which I don't even send out an email once a month, okay? So don't be worried about me spamming your inbox. If you sign up for my email list, then I will send you this Octatrack set, and I'll send it to you in WAV files too, so you don't even have to have it, not Octatrack, excuse me, model samples. I'll send this model samples project with the samples. Then you'll be able to use the samples if you don't have a model samples as well. So you can go ahead and sign up and get this. If you're already on my mailing list, which many of you are, because let's just face it, I don't get a lot of new viewers, you can just send me an email at snowmetaluniversity@gmail.com and I'll send you the pack, no problem. Anyway, hope everybody is doing well. Be blessed. One thing I want to mention right before I go is that I have new microdosing products on my other website. It's neoplasticity.com, Neoplasticity, plasticity? No, that's not. Neoplasticity, plasticity, and .com. And I've got some drops on there with different blends of nootropics and things that mimic psychedelic microdosing. I know this because I've compared EEGs, but basically they modulate the serotonin 2A receptors, and they cause neuroplasticity and neurogenesis to take place. So yeah, go check those things out if you want. I take these things every day. And I'm going to get into the music now. Be blessed.